Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durban, and for this Durban experiences, having just done reading way too much into Contact and Arrival coming out here this week, I thought it'd be really fun to go up to SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and actually experience in real life what it's like to try to find alien life out there in outer space and make contact and all that stuff. So we're gonna go check out the real life search, and it's an 8-hour trek to get way up to Northern California to Hat Creek to the satellite array and all that stuff. So we're bound to have some kind of adventure on the way up, right? So we're gonna go check that out. I'm excited about this. The trek to the far northern reaches of California was long and full of wonders. We're on our long trek to SETI, and we had to stop here at Bernie Falls. See this? Things like this make you forget that California is suffering a major drought. Thankfully, not too perilous, for we found a phone booth. And where you find an old-fashioned phone booth, you find none other than Superman. But at long last, we arrived at the Hat Creek Observatory. We're here at the Hat Creek Observatory in Hat Creek, California at the Allen Telescope Array. And with me is Jon Richards, the Senior Software Engineer for the SETI Institute. How you doing today, Jon?
Good.
Good, good. So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, on this site, right behind what we're looking at out here, is 42 dishes, receiving dishes. Each dish is 20 feet in diameter, and they can point anywhere in the sky.
That's awesome.
So what we're doing with all these dishes is pointing them at targets in the universe and in our galaxy, and trying to see if we can receive a radio signal from ET.
I guess that kind of answers my first question of what does the search for extraterrestrial life actually look like?
Okay, so what we are looking for are radio signals.
Yeah.
And our equipment here can receive signals that are between 1 gigahertz and 10 gigahertz. So we've got this 9 gigahertz range we're looking at. And this is the frequency range that a lot of radio stations are at, XM satellites, a lot of the GPS satellites, and it's spacecraft that NASA sends up. That's kind of the same range that we're in, we're looking at. So we are hoping that if ET is broadcasting a signal to us, or they're actually just broadcasting out ambient signals, we should be able to receive them, have the most possibility of receiving them between 1 and 10 gigahertz, because if you actually chart the amount of noise coming from the sky, there's a natural dip in the amount of noise between 1 gigahertz and 10 gigahertz. Huh. So that is the reason we picked that frequency range. So we're thinking if we have any hope of receiving signals from them, it would be within that range.
Wow. So when you're looking for life, what signs are you looking for? Like, I mean, you went into this a little bit, like 10 gigahertz signals, but what do these signals look like that you're looking for?
Well, these signals, what we're looking for is a very narrow signal, which means it's 1 hertz wide. I know that doesn't mean that much, but commonly radio, like FM radio, their frequencies, if you actually look at them on a spectrograph, they're wide in hertz. Mm-hmm. And cell phone signals are scattered all over the place. But we're looking for a very narrow band signal coming from one of these stars. And the signal actually has to have a shift in frequency.
Okay.
So one of the things you have to realize is the Doppler effect comes into play. It's the same effect that when a train comes at you, the whistle mm-hmm. goes higher when it's approaching you and goes lower as it goes away from you. The same with if we're receiving signals from outer space. It will be receiving at one frequency, but the frequency will either rise or lower a bit, depending on if we are rotating towards them or away from them, because we are on a sphere.
Yeah.
And we are either accelerating towards them or away from them. So
okay.
The frequency will shift. So what we do is we have a problem with radio frequency interference. There's a lot of satellites up there. There's a lot of radio stations here, and cell phone signals. And we were able to cut all those out by ignoring the ones that don't have the Doppler shift.
Okay. That makes sense. So on your monitor here, like what are we looking at here with these yellow circles and things like that?
Okay, so every night when we're observing, usually we're observing between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. And this site comes alive, setiquest.info. And what you see is a star map And on this star map, you see these yellow circles. So from our catalog, our system has picked out 3 stars that we've identified that we would like to look at. And within its field of view, it's able to pinpoint with our algorithms these 3 distinct stars and only receive signals from those points. And after it looks for the signals for about a minute and a half, it goes and it analyzes them and throws out any signals it's seen from 2 different locations. So we're able to, with our system, throw out a lot of radio frequency interference and really get to the meat of the issue, is what signal is out there that is not coming from Earth.
So far, what have we found in space?
Occasionally, our system sends us an email. That's the way it works.
Okay, cool.
In the morning, I look over all the data, but if it sees something extraordinary, the system will automatically go back and look again.
Okay.
And then it will actually look away from it, and hopefully, if it sees it, then we know, and when it's looking off, we will know that it's radio frequency interference.
Okay.
But so we look on, off, and it passes 5 of those tests. It gets put in the database. We get an email right away. So in the morning, you wake up and there's email, and then we would look at this object the next time it's up.
Yeah.
And really get to the meat of the issue. There's been several times we've seen those kind of signals, but we've always determined that it was something that was not actually an ET signal, unfortunately.
Oh.
For instance, I was earlier this May, I was observing during the day, and one actually triggered the system. And I went back and looked, and I couldn't. I looked for the next 3 days at that same spot, could not see it. And also, when I went back and looked at the raw data, I was able to see it actually kind of tricked our system. It was almost what we were looking for, but it was erratic, and so our system was giving us a false positive.
So for instance, in Contact, when Jodie Foster's out there with her headphones and she's listening, and then she hears that sound repeating in that pattern, how realistic is that to what you're looking for?
We don't actually listen.
Okay.
Because you have to think that the human range of hearings, only from like a couple of hertz to 20,000 hertz.
Okay.
And we're looking at a swath from 1 billion hertz to 10 billion hertz. So even if we could shift that frequency range down and put it into your headphones, it's still too much data for somebody to listen to. So that's why we have the computers listen for the signals.
That makes a lot of sense.
But you could, if you knew where a signal was, you could shift it down into the audio range, and if you had your headphones on, you'd hear that. But we don't do that.
So what does an ET signal look like? If you were looking for ET, what does the signal you're looking for look like?
Okay, I can show you, and the way we're able to imagine what it would look like, what we are looking for. Who knows? First of all, who knows what it's going to look like?
Yeah.
Because it could look like anything, and but we're just guessing. We're looking for this very narrow band signal. So that is characteristics of signals that we receive from spacecraft that are up there. NASA spacecraft. And the European Space Agency and a lot of others. So what we commonly do to test our system is train it on a spacecraft, and does it trigger our system? And one of the spacecraft that we look at is Voyager. Voyager is very far outside of our solar system, and it has a very low wattage transmitter. The transmitter is about the same power as your refrigerator light bulb.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it's really far away, 120 some times AU, which is the time. The AU is the distance between the sun and the Earth. I think that Voyager is more than 120 times that away. So it's far away, past Pluto. So.
And you're still able to point a satellite at it and get the wattage reading.
It's very weak, but we're able to. It actually comes and it passes those 5 tests.
Okay.
And and we get the email, and we know it worked. So I can show you what.
Yeah.
This is the model signal we're looking for. So this is Cassini, which is orbiting Saturn.
Okay.
So I pointed the dishes and let our system run, and it gave us this result, which shows a very small or very 1 hertz wide signal coming through from amid the static, and there's this shift So this graph is frequency on the x-axis, on the y-axis is time, and you can see that this signal has shifted in frequency over time.
Okay.
So it's something that's not radio frequency interference from Earth, although in essence it is radio frequency interference from Saturn, right? Because it's orbiting Saturn. So here's the one from Voyager that we see. Sometimes it's very weak. This is one observation. This was about 200 seconds. And our system was able to gather the data, do the analysis, and it found this pattern here, this very thin line, and that's Voyager. And we know it is Voyager because we know the frequency that it's transmitting on, and we know how we are moving with respect to Voyager. So we know the Doppler shift, the shift in frequencies, and they match exactly. So, for instance, this observation triggered the events and said, "Oh, I see a signal from ET," that it was from Voyager.
Oh, gotcha. Wow.
So this is the typical signal we're looking for. Something really weak, not too strong. If it's really strong, it's radio frequency interference. So that's what we're looking for. I was telling you that to test our system, to see if it can find the signals type that we're interested in, we look at these spacecraft. So there's been a spacecraft up there called Rosetta that I've been using a lot over the years to test our system with, and it was always up there and steady and strong. So it actually ended its mission a couple weeks ago, and the reason it ended its mission is its mission was to go to this comet, and it finally reached the comet, started orbiting it like a planet, but then had a little I don't know, baby spacecraft probe that jumped off of it, landed on the comet, and the comet, it was able to get pictures from.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, the problem was it wasn't that successful in that. The little spacecraft fell into a crevice right away. So they didn't get that much.
I think I remember hearing about that too.
But several weeks ago, they had known that the spacecraft the big spacecraft that's orbiting was going to run out of juice and it was the end of its life. So they actually crashed it on purpose into the comet. So I was able to track it the last time as it set.
Oh, that's so cool.
For the last hour, you were able to see the signal, and the next day it wasn't there anymore. That signal wasn't there anymore because it had crashed during the night.
Oh man,
yeah.
That's actually really cool. So you're just testing for signals, but you were able to track that and track it in its final moments.
Right.
That's
and
really
you
really
can
cool.
see that video of that on YouTube.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. So I guess this is my final question, but if we were to find a true ET signal, and we made first contact, I mean, what is the protocol? Like, what do you do when you first make contact?
Well, first you have to realize that we don't transmit.
Okay.
And currently, there isn't any place that is really set up to transmit. There are some Arecibo dish in Puerto Rico, the large one. They can transmit, but they can't actually point that much. So. So that's kind of that. Right now, if I wanted to today, I knew something was out there to transmit to it, I couldn't.
Okay.
And unless they actually built something and got the funding for it, because it costs a lot of money to do that. And you have to realize that if we're receiving a signal from somewhere that's 50 or 100 light years away, that means it took the signal 50 or 100 years to reach us. So if we were to broadcast out to them, it would take another 50 to 100 years for them to receive it.
Okay.
So it's a pretty long telephone line there. But what people commonly ask, what would happen if I actually received a signal? So I mentioned before that we have occasionally received signals that trigger the system, but we always go back and find. Well, what if I went back and found out that, oh, wait a minute, this was actually a good candidate, exactly the right one, and I was able to see, and then I would see if I could see it again. And if I could see it again, then I would tell the team I work with at the SETI Institute, and we'd probably all descend on the data and descend on here and see if we could continually see it. And if we are able to determine that it was actually a signal from somewhere, we want to do all this before we embarrass ourselves, right? We don't want to come out and say, oh, it was a computer chip in one of our computers flaking out. So what we would do then is, if we were 100% sure it wasn't an anomaly in our system, we would tell other radio astronomy places to look at the same spot and see if they see it. So there's several around the world that we could contact, and they'd probably tune right in on it. And then if they saw it, then it would become public.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's not something, if I saw something today, I would call the New York Times. No, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, because it's kind of a touchy subject, because a lot of people think that the there should not be much funding for the SETI initiatives because it's a waste of time. I think most people don't think that, but there's a lot of people that that are in charge of the funding in the government. They think that. So if we would actually start getting out there into the media, all these false alarms, our credibility would go down the tank.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have a good scientific case for the radio signal before we make it public.
So your real first protocol would be test everything, should it pass every single test and it's credible and able to be published, that's maybe when you talk about doing whatever you need to do to build something to transmit or figure out where it's coming from or things like that.
Yeah, I think that we would get the other radio astronomy places, dishes, tuned in on that.
Yeah.
If they actually saw it, then we would know it wasn't something local, and then the scientific community could talk about it in general.
Okay.
Okay, and then society would decide what to do.
Okay.
You know, there's a big controversy about, first of all, should we be broadcasting? And some people think, no way, we shouldn't. Some people say, yeah, we definitely should. And then if we all decided we wanted to broadcast, what would we broadcast? You know, people are concerned that we need to pick something that's representative of the Earth in general.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult
And that's
topic.
hard to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Things I don't think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, what is your favorite thing about what you do for the SETI Institute?
Interesting. Okay, so the system is always evolving. So we built this system. It works great, but there's always a lot of things you can improve. I mean, you always think, oh, I could double the capability if I only could do this and do that. So there's a lot of engineering to be involved and keep improving it. And as an engineer, that's what I like to do.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jon, for joining us
Welcome.
for this Durban experiences. This is awesome. So this has been what it's actually like to search for ET out there. But not only that, contacting ET is a long process. So just want to say thank you again to Jon. Thank you to the SETI Institute for allowing us to do this video, because this has been really, really fun. So hit that subscribe button, be on top of the new videos and things like that coming out here on Durbania. Thank you so much. I'm Durban. This is Jon.
Bye.
Bye.